Okay, so Nick, what we have drawn here now is an IV curve or current voltage curve for one of the solar cells that we make, the printed solar cells. And this is a pretty typical curve for this type of solar cell, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Yeah. So what we have here is we have voltage along this axis and we have current along this axis. And this curve here is generated by us applying various voltages to the solar cell. So we're changing the voltage that we're applying to the solar cell, and then we're measuring the current. So we then get points along this line all the way along here, and we're able to build up this curve. So we're looking at the response of the solar cell to a varying voltage, and we get this response here. Now, there's lots of stuff that we can, lots of information we can get out of this curve, isn't there? So just to start off with, when we were talking earlier about open circuit voltage and short circuit current, what we're talking about on this curve is this point here is the open circuit voltage, and this point here is the short circuit current. So this is a graphical representation of the point at which we're not getting any current out of the device and maximum voltage, and the point at which we're getting maximum current out of the device but no voltage, zero voltage. So interestingly, at those 2 points, the power that the solar cell is generating, or the amount of energy that's coming out of it, is zero, because if either the current or the voltage is zero, then we will receive no power at all. So where would we find the maximum power out of the solar cell, Nick?
Yeah, so the maximum power typically is going to fall less than VOC and less than ISC. And so we look at the multiplication of current and voltage for each of these points, and we find the multiplication that has the highest magnitude.
Right, and typically it's going to end up being somewhere in the middle. So we're kind of taking an average of the best voltage and the best current that we can get, which gives us the maximum power. And so we end up with this point here, and that gives us, if we were to draw lines across from these here, if we go back here, we now know our maximum current, and if we go up, we know our maximum voltage. So where would we find the theoretical maximum?
Yeah, so the theoretical maximum for a solar cell is if we were to multiply the ISC by the VOC.
Right, so that would give us a point out here. We can see a little dot there, and if I can draw maybe a straight line, and down from that one. So we've got another rectangle here, and this point here is really theoretical. We could never get to that point in reality.
No.
But that's if everything was perfect and there were no issues, this is the maximum power that we could get from the cell, whereas this point is the true power, true maximum power.
That's what we measure on the device.
Yeah, so that's on the day under light. So this curve is what the response of the solar cell will look like when you're shining light onto the solar cell. If it's in the dark and there's no light, it will look quite different. So this is a light IV curve. Now, we've drawn these 2 rectangles here. What are they about?
Yeah, so if we go back to our equation for fill factor, you'll notice that we've got voltage times current on the top and voltage times current on the bottom. And what fill factor is capturing for us is the ratio of the areas of those rectangles. So the top terms here, Vmax times Imax, is telling us about the area of this yellow rectangle here.
So this area here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the bottom term here, VOC times ISC, is telling us about the area of this entire rectangle here.
So this one here, all the way through. So this is actually the entire one through here, yeah?
Yeah. So the fill factor gives us a quick way to tell us how close to ideal this solar cell is, or how close it is to VSC and ISC at the same time.
So it's really just the ratio of these 2 rectangles. So if this this starts to come closer to this one, this will obviously get bigger and this fill factor will get higher.
Yeah, and increasingly closer to 1.
And the higher the fill factor is, that obviously is going to have an impact on the efficiency, because we can see from this equation that if it was bigger, then we'd obviously have a higher efficiency.
Yep.
Okay, so this is how we measure and characterize a solar cell and get efficiency. This is the data that is given to us when we do these measurements, and we can work out these various parameters for the solar cell, which then gives us information about its performance. So from here, the next video that you're going to watch is us actually measuring a solar cell with some basic equipment similar to what you would have available, and we'll show you how we actually gather these points along the curve here. And that data can then be used to create an IVcurve similar to this one. And then from that, you can get all of these values to be able to calculate your own efficiency for a solar cell. So we'll see you in the next video.